The alarm vibrates. 4:58 a.m. Before the sound even echoes through the dark room, Ayumi is already awake, not because she slept well, but because, in reality, she barely slept at all. The ceiling above her is a sea of shadows cast by the faint glow of the street lamp outside. The distant sound of a car cuts through the silence of the early morning. She closes her eyes, but the weight on her chest doesn't fade. Why does it always feel like something is missing? She rolls over in bed and stares at her phone. Notifications, messages, an endless feed of seemingly happy people. But it all feels meaningless. How many times has she gone through this same routine? Wake up, work, survive. Waiting for something different to happen, but not knowing exactly what's missing. She gets up, walks to the bathroom sink, and looks at her own reflection. Sunken eyes, an empty expression. She takes a deep breath. Is this all life has to offer? The question echoes inside her, a void that no achievement, no compliment, no small victory of the day ever seems to fill. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Throwing on a random coat, Ayumi steps outside. The city is still asleep, but she feels the need to walk. No destination. Just move. And then, through the morning fog, something catches her attention. A small red glow at the end of the street. A tea house. Small, discreet, hidden between old buildings. She had never noticed it before. The scent of incense and fresh herbs lingers in the air, and a light, cold breeze makes the wind chimes tinkle softly. She hesitates, but something, a deep instinct, draws her inside. The bell on the door lets out a soft chime as Ayumi steps in. Inside, the world seems to slow down. The amber glow of lanterns reflects on dark wooden walls. The aroma of freshly brewed tea blends with the scent of sandalwood incense. The space is small, almost intimate, with a few tables and cushions scattered on the floor. Behind the counter, an elderly man moves slowly, without hurry, as if every movement carries decades of purpose. His simple clothing and serene expression contrast with Ayumi's inner turmoil. He observes her for a brief moment, not in an intrusive way, but as if seeing beyond what is visible. She opens her mouth to say something, but he simply gestures toward a table by the window. Ayumi hesitates, but sits down. The silence feels strange, uncomfortable. She feels the urge to reach for her phone, but something in the atmosphere holds her back. The old man places a steaming cup in front of her and, without a word, sits across from her. Time moves slowly. The loudest sound in the room is the gentle bubbling of water kept warm in the iron kettle. Then he speaks, "You suffer because you do not understand the true nature of your mind." The words hit her like a wave. She furrows her brow. That wasn't what she expected to hear. In fact, she isn't even sure what she was expecting. "Excuse me?" she asks, almost laughing, unsure if he is speaking to her or simply to himself. The old master just smiles and pushes the cup toward her. "Drink." Ayumi obeys. The tea is hot, but comforting. The flavor is both intense and subtle at the same time. Silence returns. She feels uneasy, as if she needs to fill the emptiness with words. But the old monk simply closes his eyes and takes a deep breath. What does he mean by that? What does he see in her? And why, suddenly, does she feel like she might have found something she didn't even know she was searching for? Ayumi watches the old monk. His eyes remain closed, his breathing steady, as if there is no urgency in the world. She, on the other hand, feels a growing restlessness. She doesn't know if it's impatience or fear. Something inside her needs answers. What did you mean by that? Her voice breaks the silence. The monk slowly opens his eyes. His gaze is calm, yet direct. You believe there is something wrong with you, something missing, something that needs to be fixed. But that feeling, that emptiness, is an illusion created by your mind. Ayumi feels a tightness in her chest. If it were that simple, why has she felt this way for so long? And how do I make it stop? She asks. The old man smiles slightly, as if he has heard this question countless times before. By understanding the Four Noble Truths. He picks up the iron kettle and slowly pours more tea into Ayumi's cup. Steam rises, and he speaks as if his words are being distilled into the air along with the warm aroma. 1. Dukkha. Suffering exists. The first truth is simple. Suffering exists. We all suffer. You, me, everyone you know. But suffering is not a mistake. It is part of the human experience. Ayumi lowers her gaze to the cup in her hands. It makes sense, but it also feels discouraging. So, are we all doomed to suffer? The monk shakes his head. Number. But before you can leave a prison, you must first realize that you are inside one. Ayumi presses her lips together. The weight on her chest remains, but she realizes that perhaps she has never truly accepted it before. 2. Tanha, the origin of suffering. The monk continues. The second truth explains why we suffer. Suffering comes from attachment, from desire, from resisting change. He gestures toward her cup. If you hold this cup too tightly, you fear dropping it. If you let it go completely, there is no fear. She looks at him. But I can't just stop wanting things. The old man smiles. It's not about not wanting. It's about not clinging to desire. You can want something and still accept when things don't go as expected. Ayumi's heart beats faster. What if she never finds what she's looking for? What if everything she has built has been for the wrong reasons? But before she can respond, the monk continues. 3. Nirodha. There is a way to end suffering. The third truth is the most liberating. You don't have to suffer forever. Suffering ceases when we stop clinging to the illusions of the mind. Ayumi feels a lump in her throat. She has spent so much time believing that something was wrong with her. But what if it wasn't? What if all she needed was to change the way she saw things? She takes a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, a small spark of hope ignites within her. 4. The Eightfold Path. The method to freedom. The monk tilts his head slightly. But understanding is not enough. You must practice. He traces an invisible circle with his finger on the table. The path to freedom is not a magical solution. It is a journey, a set of practices that free you from the prison of the mind. Then he lists the 8 principles: right understanding, seeing the world as it is without distortion; right thought, cultivating pure intentions, free from attachment; right speech, avoiding lies and words that cause harm; right action, acting ethically and compassionately; right livelihood, having work that does not harm others; right effort, channeling energy toward what is positive; right mindfulness, being present, aware of each moment; right concentration, meditating and developing a calm mind. Ayumi feels her heartbeat slow. She doesn't fully understand, but she senses that this is important. How do I start? Her voice comes out softer than before. The monk tilts his head slightly and responds simply, "Start by practicing silence." Ayumi takes a deep breath. For the first time, the idea of not needing all the answers right away feels possible. But something inside her also knows that this journey is only beginning. Silence lingers between Ayumi and the monk. But this time, it's not uncomfortable. It's a different kind of silence. She watches the steam from the teacup slowly dissipate into the air. What if, just for a moment, she simply accepted things as they are? The monk notices the subtle change in her face, a small glimmer of understanding. He smiles and, without any ceremony, presents her with a challenge. For the next 30 days, live as if every moment were both your first and your last experience. Ayumi frowns. What does that mean? The monk slides a small folded parchment toward her. She unfolds it and sees 4 simple instructions. Week 1, observe your thoughts. Week 2, practice active compassion. Week 3, let go of what no longer serves you. Week 4, meditate every day, even if only for a minute. Week 1, silence and observation. The first few days are a challenge. Ayumi constantly finds herself lost in her own thoughts, judging, anticipating, reacting to every little thing. On the subway, when she hears someone complaining, she feels the immediate urge to get irritated. But this time, she simply observes. She notices how often she worries about things that haven't even happened, how often she replays past mistakes, and most of all, how often her mind runs on autopilot without her even realizing it. By the end of the week, a small shift occurs. She feels more space between one thought and the next. Week 2, practicing compassion. The second week brings a new challenge, active compassion. According to the monk, it's not just about wishing others well, but acting with kindness, even when it's not easy. Ayumi learns that being compassionate doesn't mean being passive. It means understanding that everyone carries invisible battles. She starts smiling more at strangers, holding the door open for someone, truly listening when a friend opens up without trying to fix everything. Then something unexpected happens. One day at work, a colleague who has always been cold toward her asks for help. "I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I'm going through a rough time." Ayumi doesn't try to give advice or solutions. She just listens. And she realizes that for the first time, her presence is a source of comfort for someone. Week 3. Letting go of what no longer serves her. This part is the hardest. Ayumi realizes she's holding on to many things she should have let go of long ago. A drawer full of old letters, a folder of unanswered emails, resentments she swears she's moved past, but that still sting when someone brings them up. She decides to do something symbolic. On a quiet night, she sorts through clothes she no longer wears and donates them. Then she burns an old letter she had kept for no real reason. As the flames consume the paper, she feels a strange lightness, as if something inside her is dissolving too. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means making space for something new. Week 4. Meditation as the center of life. At first, sitting in silence feels pointless, but little by little, Ayumi starts to notice something. Her mind is less chaotic. The worries are still there. The pains of the past haven't vanished, but now they no longer control her. By the end of the 30 days, something subtle yet profound has shifted within her. Life isn't perfect, but for the first time, she doesn't feel like something is missing. Transformation is never a straight line. In the first few days after completing the challenge, Ayumi feels a new kind of calm, a presence that wasn't there before. But then, life happens. An unexpected email brings bad news at work. An old argument with a family member resurfaces out of nowhere. An unanswered message from someone she cared about makes her question whether any of this has really changed anything. The old Ayumi would have immediately fallen back into the spiral of worry, the loop of anxiety. And for a moment, she feels it creeping in again. Was this all just an illusion? What if nothing really changed? She feels the urge to go back to autopilot, but before she fully gives in, a memory surfaces. The monk's voice echoes in her mind. Suffering doesn't disappear. What changes is how you relate to it. She closes her eyes, breathes, and this time, instead of drowning in anguish, she observes it. She realizes that emotions come and go like waves. She realizes she doesn't have to react immediately. She realizes she has a choice. And for the first time in a long while, she chooses not to get lost in the chaos. Something in Ayumi begins to change. It's not a grand or sudden transformation. It's subtle, deep, like a seed sprouting quietly. People around her start to notice. Her gaze is calmer, her posture lighter. She still faces challenges, but now she responds to them with a clarity she didn't have before. And then life starts flowing in an unexpected way. At work, an opportunity appears out of nowhere. A project that seemed lost opens up to new possibilities. In her relationships, she begins to attract more genuine connections. People who once seemed distant start to come closer. She realizes that when she is at peace within, the world responds differently. But this abundance has nothing to do with money or status. It has to do with finally feeling like there is enough. Enough time, enough love, enough meaning. Now she understands what the monk meant. Peace doesn't come from the outside. It is cultivated from within. And in this moment, for the first time, Ayumi doesn't feel like she's chasing after something. She simply is. Ayumi feels the need to return to the tea house. She doesn't know exactly why. Maybe to say thank you. Maybe to tell the monk that she finally understands what he meant. As she reaches the narrow street, something makes her slow down. The tea house is no longer there. The wooden sign is gone. The red lanterns have disappeared. Where there was once a quiet refuge, now there is only a blank wall, as if nothing had ever been there. She steps closer, confused. Her heart beats faster. Then she notices a small parchment pinned to the door. Her hands tremble slightly as she unrolls it. Only one sentence is written. Everything you are looking for is already within you. Ayumi closes her eyes. She could doubt. She could search for logical explanations. She could question whether the monk ever really existed or if he was just a reflection of her own mind. But this time, she doesn't need answers. She simply smiles, and as she walks through the busy street, she notices something she had never seen before. The world is the same, but she is not. And this journey, it has no end. Ayumi's journey may have been a story, but the transformation she experienced is real, and it can be yours too. If this story resonated with you, don't ignore it. Leave a like so more people can find this path. Comment below, which part of this journey resonated with you the most? What do you feel you need to let go of to find more peace? Subscribe to the channel to keep exploring Buddhist teachings applied to real life. And more than that, share this video with someone who might need a new perspective. Because sometimes a single story can change everything.